Good morning. It is a rainy and overcast day here in North Carolina. And today I want to talk about 5 species of birds that I think is underrated by bird photographers. So come along and enjoy this event. When I originally put this script together, I was going to call it "It Is Only," and this refers to the fact that when I'm working with photographers or I'm on a bird walk, somebody will say "It is only X," and I think those X birds, those common birds, don't get the respect they need because we as photographers need to practice on birds to get our skills up, and we spend so much time with these common birds that those are the birds that we get those shots that people say, "Holy cow, how did you get those shots?" So today I want to talk about 5 birds that simply don't get the respect they deserve. Bird number 5, the black skimmer, a bird of the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and you only find them usually in salt water. They are a very common bird on the Outer Banks. They are calling nesters, so when you find a calling in them, there will be literally hundreds and hundreds of them. When you find them, usually you find them in giant flocks in the wintertime. They're not a solitary bird. They like to be in huge flocks. They also tend to let you walk up to them. So when you find them somewhere, you can get relatively close to them. And I think that because of their being so common and so many of them, people tend to ignore them. The bird fishes by having its lower mandible in the water as it flies over the surface of the water. It is the only bird in the Americas that has a longer lower mandible than the upper mandible. The juveniles are these beautiful gray and black coloration with this gray bill. They are a beautiful bird, and I think because when you find one, you find hundreds of them. I think that's one of the reasons why it is a bird that's ignored by photographers. It's just so hard to just pick out one and take a good picture of it. So bird number 5, the black skimmer. Bird number 4, Carolina chickadee. This is an incredibly common bird here in North Carolina. It's one of the few endemic birds to the United States of America. It can be found from Mississippi over to the Atlantic Ocean, from the end of Florida to the middle of Virginia. These are extremely common birds here in North Carolina. As a matter of fact, the only place you can find the Carolina chickadee is on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. These birds will come to feeders, they respond to fishing. If you took bird food and threw it on the floor of the forest, chances are a Carolina chickadee would be one of the first birds there. The Carolina chickadee is seeked out by other migratory birds to form flocks where they form around chickadees, because chickadees know the local environment and where to find food and shelter. So this is a critical bird for bird migration. It is a beautiful bird. It has a beautiful song. As a matter of fact, when I hear a Carolina chickadee singing in the wintertime, I seek it out. I try to find it. I try to pitch it in, because when the Carolina chickadee goes, so does in the rest of the flock. And you will find incredible migratory birds with that bird. So bird number 4 is Carolina chickadee. I have a Dick Sissel over here calling. If you want to see my video on Dick Sissels, I'll leave a link above and a link below. But bird number 3 is the northern cardinal. This is an incredibly beautiful bird. It's incredibly common. It is tolerant of human beings. You can find it in almost all of North Carolina. They come to feeders. They let you walk almost up to them. They are very tolerant of people. The northern cardinal is also ignored by photographers. It always amazes me how many, when I'm looking at pictures of birds from North Carolina, how few of them actually have people that have cardinals in them, because they're so common. And and this is a bird that is the classic example of it is only the cardinal, because it's that common. It would not be uncommon to go on a walk and see several dozen of these birds. So as a photographer, you really need to give this bird a chance. I mean, I don't know why it's not a bully, it's a vegetarian. I mean, it's just one of these birds that we ignore, and I think this bird deserves a lot more respect than it gets. I think the second bird, I really debated about putting this bird on the list. The reason why it's on my list, why it's a bird that's rejected, is because it's difficult to photograph. I have worked with photographers, and I've had several of them say to me, I just don't want to spend the time trying to photograph this bird here. It seems like very frustrating and stuff, and it is. So the brown creeper is this tiny little bird that's a winter visitor to North Carolina. They only climb up trees, they don't climb down trees, and when they get to a certain point, they fly down to another tree. They're not incredibly tolerant of humans. These are birds that they don't flock up with other brown creepers. They will form loose flocks with other migratory birds, but they don't form flocks with the creepers here in North Carolina. And you might see one, if you're hiking a forest, you might see one or two of them, but they do, when the Carolina chickadee starts calling, if you pitch in a Carolina chickadee and it starts calling and a flock of birds come with it, usually a brown creeper's with it. And I think that's the reason why this bird's on the list. It's just one of those birds that can be difficult to photograph. I think it's the hardest bird to photograph that's on this list, but I think it's a bird that if you spend the energy and time, you can get some really epic photos of. Before I tell you my #1 bird that I think is ignored, I want to hear what birds you think are ignored. What birds in your area do you feel photographers should take more seriously? I would love to hear them. I respond to every one of them. If you think there's a bird on my list that should not be there, or another bird that should be, leave your comment below. But bird #1 are gulls, and I'm going to use a whole subset of species here. Gulls are a bird that I think are ignored, and I do this myself. I went out to the Outer Banks a little while ago, and when I was out there, I took thousands of photographs and not one of them of a gull. So that says something to me about my prejudice about gulls. And gulls are kind of looked down on. They're looked as scavengers, they're looked as common birds. They're all white, generally with very little black on them. They're a bird that can be ignored or rejected, and I think this is a bad policy as bird photographers, because gulls can be an extremely striking bird, especially like the laughing gull, the Bonaparte gull. Even the herring gull and the ring gull are very common birds here, and they can be extremely striking birds to photograph, especially during the breeding season. So the next time you're out there and you see these common birds, consider taking a photograph. They do deserve some respect. So if you got anything out of this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel, because that really helps us in the YouTube world. Leave your comments below or respond to every one of them, and become a Patreon supporter. Your support allows us to keep doing this. My name is Leahy, and I want to thank you for watching.